welcome to our podcast. Could you please introduce yourself?
Yes, hi to everyone. My name is Stephen Phillips and I'm the Director General of Investment Promotion at Invest Hong Kong, which is the inward investment department of the Hong Kong government.
Can you tell me, Stephen, a little bit about the advantages of a company setting up operations in Hong Kong?
Sure. I think there are many. First of all, Hong Kong has got unrivaled geographic benefits, being right at the very heart of Asia. And so for businesses, it means that they can tap into the market not only in Hong Kong, in China, but also in ASEAN. Hong Kong itself is a very vibrant international city. We've got a very well-established business environment, a very global outlook. It's an open and free economy that allows free flow of capital, goods and information. All of it's underpinned by a very robust legal system based on common law with world-class intellectual property protection. And for companies that are looking to grow, Hong Kong is also one of the world's leading international financial centres. So the depth of the capital markets here, whether debt or equity, or our professional services are really top rate. On top of that, we have a low and simple competitive tax system, and like many jurisdictions, a network of both free trade agreements and double taxation agreements with key jurisdictions around the world. But most of all, Hong Kong is a fantastic place for any company to tap in to the fast-growing markets of Asia.
Could you amplify a little bit on what makes Hong Kong a distinctive choice as a jurisdiction in which to do business versus other leading international financial centres?
As you know, Hong Kong has got a very unique position as the most international city within China. And under the one country, two systems formula, Hong Kong continues to operate in effect a capitalist system with our own currency, political and legal system. And this has allowed the city to continue to flourish as a leading international financial centre. But of course, it also enjoys the benefits of being part of China. And with mainland China being such a fast-growing economy in the world, the second only to the US, it's a very important city for companies around the world. And we also have got a very exciting development taking place within the south of China called the Greater Bay Area. The formal name is the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau Bay Area. But this is a region which is home to about 70 million people, all within roughly 1 hour's travelling of each other, and the most affluent within China, and also home to some of the most innovative companies within China. So whether we're working with an international company focused on consumers or on B2B, this is a very, very exciting development, and probably is the most significant economic development initiative on a global scale. Hong Kong has a particular role in the internationalisation of the renminbi and is the largest offshore centre for the renminbi, and also great connectivity between the capital markets, the equity capital markets and debt capital markets between Hong Kong and the mainland. So we have Stock Connect and Bond Connect programmes that allow for the movement of capital between the two different systems. Also very important to international investors.
Sounds as though you have a lot of attractive things available for companies looking to set up operations in the territory. You touched on tax earlier. Can I ask, Stephen, what sort of tax incentives are available to encourage organisations to locate or relocate to Hong Kong?
Hong Kong basically takes a very straightforward approach to corporate taxation and indeed individual taxation. So we really go for simplicity. On the corporate tax side, we have a two-tiered tax. So the first 2 million Hong Kong dollars is taxed at just 8.25%, and then it's 16.5% above that. Personal income tax is capped, and the maximum that anybody would pay is 17%, but that's on a sort of graded basis. So attractive both for the company and for employees. We also have a number of tax incentives in specific areas. A particularly interesting one, I think, for many international companies is around R&D, where we have a super deduction for qualifying R&D activities. And again, this is a two-tiered deduction with 300% deduction of R&D expenditure up to 2 million Hong Kong dollars, and then 200% thereafter. And that's unlimited with carry forward allowed. So that's very attractive at a global level for companies looking to do an R&D in our city. On top of that, we've got a number of other structures where there are tax incentives. We've got a very competitive aircraft leasing regime. We have profits tax exemption for funds. And we also are in the process of introducing some tax incentives around ship finance. But I think the key thing is with taxation is, as in any jurisdiction, to either talk to tax advisors or to talk to InvestHK, and we can talk companies through what they might be eligible to apply for.
Thank you. Briefly, if you can, how difficult is it for an overseas player to set up a presence in Hong Kong? And here I'm thinking about things such as cost and time and regulatory factors to bear in mind.
For businesses that don't fall under a regulatory regime, such as banking, securities and insurance, it is as straightforward as any jurisdiction in the world. So based on that common law type system, very similar to opening a company in other common law jurisdictions. It can be done in effect overnight, and it can be done online. The costs obviously vary upon whether a company uses advisors or whether they do their work for themselves, but it's modest. And there's no minimum capital requirements for setting up a business. So for most companies, they could have a legal entity up and running within a couple of weeks maximum, and probably only expending somewhere in the region of $1,000 at a minimum level, but obviously depending on advice taken, it could be more than that.
What impact is the Belt and Road Initiative expected to have on business in the territory?
Well, the Belt and Road Initiative is a very large economic development program that sees the closer economic integration from China through Central Asia to Europe, and from China through Southeast Asia, the Middle East, and again to Europe. And Hong Kong has a particular role to play, again, because it's such an international city. So it's a great place for an international company to work with a mainland Chinese company to set up a joint venture, to structure and finance projects in Belt and Road countries. It could be in Kazakhstan, it could be in Pakistan. And at the same time, also to tap into the consulting engineers that we have in Hong Kong, for instance, in terms of engineering, design, and project management and so forth. And of course, utilising the world-class professional services that we have to ensure that the structuring, whether on the accounting, tax, or legal side, are as robust as possible. On the financing side, there's the debt and equity capital markets, opportunities around green finance, but also the depth of risk management products that companies can use to try and mitigate as much risk as possible for projects in the Belt and Road. So those are some of the opportunities where we see Hong Kong playing a very important role.
Thank you for that insight. If we imagine a company has decided that it does want to set up operations in Hong Kong, what sort of assistance is available to such an organisation?
Well, InvestHK is the point of entry for any international company that would like to explore opportunities in Hong Kong and indeed beyond. So we've got teams all around the world and in Hong Kong that will take companies through all of the steps. The first step typically is planning, identifying what the opportunity might be, what factors companies need to be thinking about as they develop their business plan. We can take them through what the tax implications might be, any regulatory issues that they might need to contemplate, how they go about employing people. We can point them in the right direction to get visas and so forth. And we then help companies during the setup process to get the business up and running. We can make introductions to the lawyers, the accountants, the bankers. We can help companies through the visa application process. We can help companies find premises for the business. And we also help any expatriates on some of the issues that they need to sort out: housing, healthcare, education, and so forth. We then help companies during the launch process, and that goes from PR and media support through to getting companies plugged into relevant networks for them in Hong Kong to obviously drive business opportunities for them. And then finally, we have an ongoing support mechanism to help companies expand. From the Hong Kong government's point of view, once companies are here, we want to help them find new opportunities. That might relate to the Greater Bay Area, it might relate to ASEAN, it might relate to the innovation agenda in Hong Kong. But we continue to work with companies to find avenues for growth.
What sort of range and depth of the talent pool is available, i.e. what sort of professional support services are available to organisations in Hong Kong?
You have got the whole gamut of professional services in Hong Kong, and they are of the calibre and quality that you would find in other major international centres, in London, in New York. So legal, accounting, human resources, consultancy, education, training, engineering, and obviously on the financial side. So we have a very deep talent pool with a very international outlook. And indeed, Hong Kong is home to people from many parts of the world. So finding people with the language and cultural skills to develop markets across the region is also one of the great attributes of the city.
As a general rule, professional service staff of the type that you've just outlined, who are not local nationals, for example, accountants or lawyers from overseas, who would like to work in a jurisdiction, require work visas. How long do these normally take to get approved? And what's the fastest way for a new business to get feet on the ground?
Yes, in terms of bringing in highly qualified staff, it is quite straightforward. We have a very amenable immigration regime. Typically, it would take around about 4 weeks to process a visa and entry permit applications, provided all of the requisite documentation is available. And we can help companies through that process, although the immigration department is obviously the department at the end of the day that issues any visas. There are some particular schemes around the fast tracking of certain types of talent. We have a list of particular areas we'd be very happy to share with any companies. But it's straightforward. We welcome the importation of high quality talent into the city.
Can you tell me a little bit about the Quality Migrant Admission Scheme?
Yes, that's one particular programme that the Immigration Department has. And this is really a scheme that allows highly skilled or talented people to settle in Hong Kong without having a job offer. So if they meet certain prerequisites, they basically, under a points-based system, may be able to get a visa under the Quality Migrant Admission Scheme. So that allows them to set themselves up in Hong Kong and then look for a job in the city. Again, we can help companies and indeed individuals to identify whether they qualify for that. As you can imagine, there are some basic requisites in terms of age, in terms of education. The applicants need to demonstrate that they can support themselves financially until they find a role. They obviously need to be of good character. They need to be able to demonstrate high quality linguistic skills, which could either be Chinese or English. And then typically they will need to have at least a first degree from a recognised university from elsewhere.
And to wrap up, what would you say, Stephen, should be the first steps for a company looking to come to Hong Kong in terms of getting the best initial advice? Would that be coming to yourselves?
Exactly. Contact Invest Hong Kong. Our website, www.investhk.gov.hk, has got a list of all of our offices around the world. And I'd encourage companies to get in touch with the office closest to them. And then our overseas teams can bring in sector-based colleagues in Hong Kong to get to a more detailed level about the opportunities that Hong Kong offers to the business. So it is straightforward. Give us a call and we will help companies navigate their way to finding growth in and via Hong Kong.
That's wonderful. Thank you for joining us, Stephen. It's very much appreciated. It's been very informative.
My pleasure. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. And we'll see everyone again on the next podcast.